Let's get this party started!
He's shining a light in the dark corners of our media.
You are fake news.
Our government.
Handling of classified documents.
And our culture.
Don't trust anyone.
It's common sense amidst chaos.
Let's go.
Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome.
Here's your host, Ike Wingate.
Hello and welcome to the Ike Wingate Show, our last show before Thanksgiving. So it is a time to be grateful and thankful. We'll talk a little bit about the Thanksgiving story coming up as well, but a lot to get to today. We're going to have to keep it moving. But for those of you that are just finding the show for the very first time, amongst our friends at Right Side Broadcasting, my name is Ike Wingate. Our mission here is to shine a light into the dark corners of our government, our culture, and our media. It is a full-time job and then some, because the truth will set us free. You can follow me on X at Ike Wingate. It's there on the bottom of your screen. Of course, help us in the algorithm by giving us a thumbs up and sharing this broadcast. If you're watching on X, heart the post and repost. Ukraine and Russia could be coming to a peace deal very soon. We're hearing developments about that story as we speak, so we'll get to that first off. We'll also be talking about this Seditious Six. We have gone over this previously in other shows, talking about the Seditious Six. Basically, these six Democrats who basically told the military personnel to, don't what did they say? Don't obey unlawful orders or whatever they said, right? And so that kind of goes without saying, doesn't it? Don't obey unlawful orders. Isn't that kind of common sense? Well, a lot of people have said, hey, there's something wrong with this. President Trump tweeted out, this is sedition, punishable by death. They asked him later, do you want these people executed? He said no. I think it's treasonous, but apparently the Constitution is very specific about treason, so it doesn't fit that. Well, regardless of what law it does or does not break, Pete Hegseth is investigating this. They may make Senator Mark Kelly active duty again and bring him up for court-martial. That's what Secretary of War Pete Hegseth tweeted out earlier today. We'll talk about that. Of course, the Comey case dismissed. Marjorie Taylor Greene quit. There are rumors of a Whitehouse Staff shakeup as well. We'll talk a bit about that. Mamdani and Trump met together days ago. We'll talk about that with someone joining us here from the Westchester, New York Republican County Committee, just outside of New York City, giving us sort of an on-the-ground take from what is happening there. And the FBI has made a statement on the Trump assassin, Thomas Crooks. We want to know also the status of DOGE. Is DOGE still happening? Are they still working? The media is telling us that DOGE is shut down. Is that the truth? We also have news on Epstein and Schumer. Isn't it interesting how quiet the Democrats have gotten on the Epstein files in the last several days? Also, tweeted out by the Prime Minister of Israel, Benjamin Netanyahu, a story about Epstein's involvement in Israeli elections. Go figure, huh? Plus, open carry coming to the Supreme Court. And of course, like I said, we'll talk about the Thanksgiving story. Once again, follow me on X at Ike Wingate and help us in the algorithm by sharing the show right now. Give us a thumbs up, repost, and do all the things. Please, heart the post on X. Do it right now. That will help us in the algorithm. And of course, we want to see your involvement in the chat. I see CJ has reposted us on X, and BC Jazz is active in the chat. Hello and happy Thanksgiving to you. We need more people in the chat interacting. That's always one of the best parts of the show. Ukraine agrees to Trump's major peace deal. That's the breaking news. Ukraine supports the essence of a framework for peace. This is on Newsmax.com following talks with the United States in Geneva. but some of the more sensitive issues of the framework remain to be discussed between the country's president, a Ukrainian official has said. The White House is pointing to the release from Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt, quoting Secretary of State Marco Rubio's Sunday night remarks that remaining issues are not insurmountable. So it isn't done, but we've got sort of people verbally agreeing to things with some things still yet to be worked out. Obviously, a much more complex conflict that even President Trump had predicted. He has said this much. He has said it was a lot more complicated than I realized. These people are so dug in. I mean, he basically said it was easier to broker Middle East peace than it was a peace between these two countries, these two leaders in Volodymyr Zelensky and Vladimir Putin. All right. Now, in the middle of all this, you've got plenty of people that want war to continue. I mean, war is big business. Make no mistake about it. Adam Kinzinger, who is looking pretty rough these days, goes off on there being peace between Ukraine and Russia. He doesn't like it, says it's all in favor of Russia.
Hey guys, I'm losing my voice, but I want to talk about this Ukraine.
Also, tell me if you also believe that this guy might be inebriated. That's just my first impression.
Russia deal, where there was this 28-point plan that the U.S. came up with for Ukraine and peace. And then there were some questions about whether it was actually Russia that wrote it or whether it was the U.S. And there's been this back and forth. It's like impossible to follow. But the bottom line is this plan, this peace plan that was given to Ukraine is just a complete capitulation of Ukraine. It's awful. And everybody knows this. And the European allies know this, and hopefully they stand with Ukraine when Ukraine rejects this. But I just want to make the point that because there were people that thought Donald Trump was going to be good for the economy, and he's been terrible for the economy. The economy is a wreck.
It's a wreck, huh? No, actually, a wreck is what the economy was when President Trump took over. We now have inflation around 2.5%. It was at 9% under Biden. And I would say it's going to be very hard to get a lot of these prices down. It's more like we need to get wages up, because once prices kind of settle in, except for, gas prices and some other various specific sectors, you don't really see prices go down once they sort of get to a certain point, right? But you could say we want things to be more affordable, and I would agree with you, but you cannot say with any authenticity or fairness that President Trump has been a disaster for the economy. You certainly can't say he's been a disaster for foreign policy. All the deals he has brokered, peace deals, as well as investment in the U.S. And then look at how these foreign leaders treat him when he's there, giving him unprecedented gifts and respect. And so, I don't know, Kinzinger. I don't know where you are. It looks like you might be in a doctor's office right now filming this. I don't know. But I'm going to take the actual facts of the deals that have been done. Has the economy come to a full speed motion yet under these new deals? No. I mean, basically 4 years under Biden, you guys couldn't care less about this stuff, but you want President Trump to basically wave a magic wand in 10 months and fix every problem that Biden took 4 years to magnify. That's insane.
And because they thought they liked how he just says what needs to be said, blah, 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 even though he's a complete con artist.
Man, this guy seems kind of jelly. Even though he says what needs to be said, like he doesn't like that. He doesn't like that is what people like about Trump, huh? He might have a man crush on Trump. I don't know.
And he makes stuff up all the time. He's like a 5-year-old little boy that's still trying to win his dad's approval. How pathetic is that?
While you're making up stuff in this video. Okay, all right, got it.
But because he won, because there were people that bought into that lie.
No, people were tired of the terrible policies under the Biden administration while other people were running our country, and it was obvious. That's why President Trump won in a mandate-style When?
They're being shamed on the world stage.
We're being shamed on the world stage. Buddy, I don't get it here, man. We're on the brink here of 9 peace deals, 9 wars settled, and trillions of dollars of investment back in the U.S. from outside of our country. So I'm not tracking here with you, Kinzinger.
The rest of the world thinks our president, and they're right, and our diplomacy is a joke.
Oh my gosh.
We are throwing decades of hard work and reputation building down the toilet because Donald Trump is more interested in personally profiting from countries like Qatar and Saudi Arabia than he is in actually leading and representing the United States of America.
Kind of seems like he's about to cry, doesn't it?
I promise you, in about 10 years, there will be no person in the world that will ever admit that they supported Donald Trump. What a shame.
Okay. Definitely one of the top 10 cases of Trump derangement syndrome, Adam Kinzinger. All right. Speaking of the Seditious Six, as they've now been labeled, the Department of War putting out this statement that they have received serious allegations of misconduct against Captain Mark Kelly in accordance with the Uniform Code of Military Service and other applicable regulations. A thorough review has been initiated to determine further actions, which may include a recall to active duty for court-martial proceedings or administrative measures. The matter will be handled in compliance with military law, ensuring due process and impartiality. So you might think it's severe, but under the military, you can't do this kind of stuff. The Department of War reminds all individuals that military retirees remain subject, you have the right to remain subject to the UCMJ for applicable offenses and federal laws and prohibit actions intended to interfere with the loyalty, morale, or good order and discipline of the armed services. This is why it's a serious thing. And the civilians out there can say all day long that, this is ridiculous. Well, there's a code of conduct in the military, and it appears that Mark Kelly may have violated it. We will see. Some people out there, though, are indignant. Ruben Gallego, congressman, says blank your investigation. Blank your investigation. What a guy. Well, it just so happens that Ruben Gallego has some unsavory text messages that have come to light here. Let me see if I can pull those up for you. This is from Jack Posobiec, who has been sent these text messages between Gallego and someone, basically where he says that Democrat women look like men. So in the blue is whoever this person is that was texting. Been watching all the insanity up there. I think it's time for somebody with a cool head and a solid plan could rise to the top of your party. I mean, isn't that the truth for the Democrats? If somebody would just act normal and be reasonable, like John Fetterman, which is crazy to say, they would rise to the top and be a leader of the party. There's a vacuum. Gallego says, oh man, have you met my party? I've been yelling at them this whole time. Basically, sends a picture of that congresswoman who has the purple hair. If erectile dysfunction had a face, that's what the meme says. This is how the world views many of them. And Gallego responds, they aren't wrong. They aren't wrong. And this person texts Gallego back, my point exactly. You have gained the strength and the wisdom. Seems like it's time for you to flex and battle your way to the top of the party. Gallego responds, we look like the not fun party, always telling and correcting people, not allowing no men to men. I don't know. Women, not allowing men to be men or women to be hot. We used to be the party of sex, drugs, and rock and roll. Now Democrat women look like Democrat men, and Democrat men look like women. He's not wrong, right? But it's embarrassing when you're a Democrat and you're tweeting that, or texting that rather. This was leaked. Now, again, allegedly, these are legit. This is coming directly from this thread that was sent to Jack Posobiec, who knows the intermediary, the person who was texting with Gallego. So that just broke recently. I'm sure we will see more about that soon. Carl Higbee of Newsmax putting this out there. You've noticed a lot of negative stuff happening for the Republican Party, have you not? For the last 2 weeks or so, the Epstein files are sort of part of that. You see all this infighting going on. MTG, Marjorie Taylor Greene quits. It's like, what is happening here? Well, there are some theories out there, and the Democrats are running U.S. Army-style psyops. If your opinion has gone negative of Trump within the last few weeks, you're likely the victim of a massive Democrat-run psyop. That's what Carl Higbee has posted. Take a look here.
Right now, do you believe President Trump has issued any illegal orders?
To my knowledge, I am not aware of things that are illegal.
Folks, don't doubt me on this one. I literally did this in other countries. But this is just the current lever being pulled. They've been prepping this for 10 years. They've been trying to cast Donald Trump as crazy, unconstitutional, whatever else, trying to create the vulnerability to crack his support, and none of it's true. Here from the manual, quote, a vulnerability is it's critical when its exploitation will significantly influence the threat's ability, the threat being Trump, ability to conduct, support, or operations. Operations in this case, meaning carefully convinced young service members that striking a drug boat in international waters might be an illegal order without saying it, because it's not. Oh, Carl, the military and the CIA can't actually be using a PSYOPs campaign on the American people. You bet they can. You ever heard of the Smith-Mundt Act of 1948? This actually prohibited the U.S. government from disseminating government-funded propaganda or psychological operations materials on American citizens. Well,
I think Obama reversed this. I believe that serves me correctly here.
The Smith-Mundt Modernization Act of 2012, which was incorporated into the National Defense Authorization Act of 2013, signed by President then Barack Obama, changed that. Specifically, Section 1078. Got the receipts, folks. The primary goal was to remove limits to the United States government's ability to counter foreign propaganda. This basically showed the government the ability to influence U.S. public opinion. I mean, don't even get me started on the Patriot Act and how it allowed it to spy on all Americans, but whatever. So think about this. If your opinion has gone negative of Trump, especially in the last few weeks, folks, you are likely a victim of a massive psyops. Trump hasn't changed in the last 3 weeks.
Okay. That's an interesting theory, is it not? Especially noting historically that act was repealed by Obama. But you also have other people that are talking to people inside the CIA that are saying the same thing. Jesse Waters recently disclosed this same type of idea that is happening currently.
What foolishness. This is a woman who won a year ago by 0.3 of a percentage point in Michigan, by 19,000 votes out of 5 million cast. And she speaks like this: I want the people of Michigan, Arizona to know their senators are interested in sound bites and social media screeds rather than facts and figures.
So I talked to 2 CIA officers who said that this is a part of a larger hoax. And what they're doing here is they're trying to condition the country to prepare for something bad that's about to happen at the hands of Donald Trump. It's straight out of the CIA playbook. It's a destabilization operation where you get people to mistrust each other. And you do this because she's an analyst. And as an analyst, she would make sure what propaganda operations were successful, which ones weren't. So she knows what works. So the first part of the video, you establish authority. I'm CIA, I'm military, you need to trust us. Second part of the video, they introduce the threat, and the threat's not foreign, the threat's domestic, the threat's Donald Trump. And then at the end, they introduce the solution. What's the solution? You resist, you say no, but they don't give an option. They say this is an obligation for you to do.
Okay, so you see how this could have come together. We're also hearing that Gallego said, I got the script. I didn't have time to be in the video, but I got the script. So there is a script sent around by someone, presumably as it relates to the whole video put out about servicemen and women not obeying unlawful orders, etc. Sand Girl is on YouTube. Says reminding troops of the oath they took is not against the law. It helps troops that are concerned about what they are asked to do so they can seek advice. Okay. All right. So I'm not really sure. Yeah. Well, I mean, you took an oath. You must, if these acts are declared illegal, then that is something you take up later. You cannot, as someone out there on the front lines or on the ground or whatever, start questioning orders and ask, "Is this legal?" No, that's not something you can do in the moment. But the whole point here is they're trying to sow discord. They're trying to sow dissent and doubt, and they're sort of dog whistling to all the people that hate Trump that are in the military to basically set up, a mutiny. That's essentially what you are seeing here. Now, Mark Kelly is sort of doing this revisionist history now on the media, saying, we wanted to explain that to members of the military that we have their back. Basically, they don't like them taking out these drug boats, and they're trying to get people to, to go against their orders. And no one has deemed these taking out these drug boats as illegal. It's not something that anybody was encouraging military to do when President Obama's regime was taking out women and children with drone strikes. But now Mark Kelly is saying, oh, no, we were just trying to tell them we had their backs. Okay. And then just hours later, Ruben Gallego threatens the members of the military with retaliation over this investigation into Kelly. I mean, it's absurd.
Rachel, we wanted to do something pretty simple here. We wanted to just remind folks that they need to comply with the law and be reminded, and also explain to members of the military that we have their backs.
Donald Trump's going to be gone a couple of years. And if you're part of the military that is going after sitting senators, sitting members of Congress, and part of, the weaponization of government, there will be consequences.
Okay, yeah, we just wanted to let them know we got their backs. Hey, don't you dare have any doubt, because Donald Trump's going to be gone at some point. We're going to come after you. All right, this morning I was on Newsmax quite early on Wake Up America. I was asked about this subject, and here's how it went.
And that was that members of the military should follow the law. And in response to that, Donald Trump said, I should be executed. I should be hanged. I should be prosecuted. I think it says a lot more about him than it says about me. He doesn't want accountability. But Rachel, I'm not going to be silenced. I'm not going to be intimidated.
Right. Yeah. He really just sugarcoated everything there, and everything he just said is just false. What do you make of his comments there?
Well, Mark Kelly, thank you for your service as a captain, but now I'm going to dub you Captain Obvious, because we know that the military shouldn't carry out illegal orders, and our servicemen and women know that too. Why don't you go ahead and tell us not to eat poison or, stick a fork in a wall socket? We know these things. So what was your point? What were you making this video for, other than mutiny via TikTok or something? This is absolutely undermining the president. It's undermining the commander-in-chief, the chain of command. It's undermining military discipline and morale. I mean, to me, this is treasonous. This is very dangerous, what they're sort of spelling out here in a passive-aggressive way. And now they're sort of backing up going, oh, all we were doing is telling people, not to carry out illegal orders. We know that, and they know that too. And your video was merely political theater at the expense of the morale and discipline of our military. Okay. So I've since been corrected and said that doesn't constitute treason. I don't care, honestly, what law it does or does not constitute. It is a horrible look. It is absolutely un-American. Absolutely un-American. Zero question. Zero question. If you don't like what is happening, then change it with a law. Do your job as a lawmaker. Don't put the onus and the responsibility on our servicemen and women who are carrying out their orders. You are a lawmaker. If you want to change something, then change the law. Do your job. Quit skirting your responsibility and having no courage and then backing up and saying, oh, we're just trying to support our military. Bull crap. What you're trying to do is you're trying to sow discord. You're trying to sow doubt. And what you're doing is very, very dangerous and completely un-American. Now the FBI has scheduled interviews with those 6 lawmakers who have encouraged military members to refuse illegal orders. So it might be getting very serious for this quote-unquote seditious 6. Okay? And so get ready for that. All right, we've got our usual trolls in the YouTube chat. BC Jazz says happy Thanksgiving. And to Ike and all the Wingate family, thank you, BC Jazz. Back at you, my friend. Mostly Penny says, has any judge yet blocked the turkey pardon and made them report to a butterball facility? Yes, we'll talk about the pardon coming up for the turkeys. But as of this moment, they have not challenged it in court, but give it time because that's what Democrats love to do, right? I think that's right. Yeah, that's what they continue to do. All right, we're going to take a quick break here. You can support us by going to IkeReport.com and giving $5, $10, $20 via Cash App or Venmo to help us cover our cost. You can go to IkeReport.com to do that, Cash App or Venmo, $5, $10, $20 at IkeReport.com. If you don't want to do that, then at least help us out by liking this broadcast and sharing it. You can repost it, retweet it, so to speak, as well. If you're watching on X, heart the post, but all the other platforms, you can give us a thumbs up. All right, we're going to be coming back with the Comey case that was just dismissed, and Marjorie Taylor Greene has quit, and there is potentially a big Whitehouse staff shakeup. That is what we're being told here, and we'll get to all those things right after this.
Oh, hey. Didn't see you there. Well, just hanging out on the farm here. You know, one thing I was thinking about this morning is when's the next crisis going to hit? It's not really a matter of if, it's just a matter of when. And we really can't rely on the government to take care of a shortage or something like that. We just got to take care of ourselves. You remember back in COVID, you tried to go to the store and everything was gone? Well, you can't risk that kind of thing. That's why I suggest My Patriot Supply. You can go to preparewithike.com and get your 4-week emergency food kit. Save $50 when you use my URL. Again, it is preparewithike.com. It's not a matter of if, it's just a matter of when. And the question is, when it does happen, will your family eat? Make sure there's no question about it. Take action now. Save $50, 4-week emergency food kit, preparewithike.com. Fourscore and 7 years ago, there used to be men in this country. Now this country's full of a bunch of weenie men. You think about all the stuff that's in the water, plastics, microplastics, there's estrogen everywhere. In fact, compared to 100 years ago, men have half the testosterone that they used to. Look, it's not like getting shot in the back of the head. All you need to do is take chalk once every day, and you can boost your testosterone for fun things that require your energy, like working out or playing sports or actually spending time with your kids. I wish I could do that, but I can't because I'm dead. But if I were alive, I would take chalk. The Patriots said chalk combine the most powerful herbal extracts, so it's all natural, giving you that lift that you need. George, come spot me.
Well, Abe, if I too were alive, I'd gladly spot you.
It's time to boost your testosterone to levels not seen since 1776 or 1860 or 1864, whatever. But it's herbal. It's natural. It's made in the USA. It's been clinically studied to boost testosterone. We're talking about chalk. Okay? Stop being all weird with this trends and everything else. We didn't have that back in my day. We had real men. It's time to get boosted back to those levels when men were men and women were women and there wasn't anything in between. Right, Mary?
Yes, Lincoln.
That's right. Get chalk. IceWingate.com. Get chalk. If you want to be like me, get chalk. Except for the dead part. Okay. IceWingate.com.
Hey there! Tired of watching your subscription costs climb higher and higher? With Q Broadcast, you get more for less. All your favorite channels and content bundled into one unbeatable package. No contracts, no hidden fees, just simple, affordable streaming. Say goodbye to overpriced services and hello to a new era of entertainment. This is streaming the way it should be. Q Broadcast, this changes everything.
You can sign up for Q Streaming today at IkeWingate.com. Just click Get Q Streaming to start streaming tons of channels, video on demand, even pay-per-view, all for the same price. It's all included. This is a Christian conservative-owned company that does not hate your values. Stop giving money to the cabal of big tech. Support companies that support your values. Right now at IkeWingate.com, just click Get Q Streaming.
He's telling you the truth that the deep state doesn't want you to know. Now back to the Ike Wingate Show.
Welcome back and happy Thanksgiving to you and yours. We're going to talk a little bit about the first Thanksgiving later in the show. We'll also be joined by a member of the Westchester, New York Republican County Committee just outside New York City talking about Mamdani and President Trump. That'll be coming up here in about half an hour. And a little bit later, Epstein and Schumer, Epstein and Israeli elections, the Muslim Brotherhood, the open carry regarding the Second Amendment, going to the Supreme Court, and a whole lot more. It's all coming up for you. But the big story that recently broke in the last few days is this federal judge dismissing the indictments against Letitia Big Tish James and James Comey, saying Lindsay Halligan, her appointment as the acting U.S. attorney in Virginia was unlawful. So basically, they dismissed this case on a technicality. Some saying this was avoidable, that they couldn't just continue to extend these temporary statuses. That is being challenged. But of course, this Clinton-appointed judge dismissed the indictments and found that the interim U.S. attorney, Lindsay Halligan, was invalid. Trump handpicked Halligan for her role. The attorney general's attempt to install Ms. Halligan as interim U.S. attorney for the Eastern District of Virginia was invalid. Judge Cameron McGowan Curry wrote in her Monday order, all actions from her defective appointment, including this indictment, were unlawful. This could have been dismissed a while ago. The statute of limitations were up in September, allegedly, but they secured this grand jury indictment. Now, some say the grand jury didn't see everything before the indictment. The cases were tossed without prejudice, which does leave open the possibility that these cases can be brought again. But again, that statute of limitations is going to come into play. Of course, Tish James, she is not going to be protected by that statute of limitations, but we will see. Now, attorney Mike Davis, big freedom fighter guy, says, hey, don't worry. These appetizers that were just sent, that were rejected and sent back, don't worry. There's going to be more, and there's going to be a main course. And if it doesn't happen in these other jurisdictions, he will bring it in the Southern District of Florida. Of course, James Comey, a guy who loves the spotlight, made sure he took a victory lap in public yesterday or whenever it was.
I'm grateful that the court ended the case against me, which was a prosecution based on malevolence and incompetence, and a reflection of what the Department of Justice has become under Donald Trump, which is heartbreaking. But I was also inspired by the example of the career people who refused to be part of this travesty.
All right, so I'm not going to play this whole thing for you because it's annoying. It's James Comey, the guy who acts like he's just so grieved for freedom and the Constitution, but he allegedly signed off on spy warrants without the justification, without the probable cause, and that's been testified to by whistleblowers inside the FBI. And the press secretary, Caroline Leavitt, addressed this dismissal like this.
No, because Lindsay Callaghan was legally appointed, and that's the administration's position. I know there was a judge who is clearly trying to shield Letitia James and James Comey from receiving accountability, and that's why they took this unprecedented action to throw away the indictments against these two individuals. But the Department of Justice will be appealing very soon, and it is our position that Lindsay Callaghan is extremely qualified for this position, but more importantly, was legally appointed to it. No.
Okay, we will see what transpires there with that. As far as the challenge goes, the case dismissed on the technicality. Now, why isn't Halligan already approved and confirmed? Why is that happening? I talked a little bit about that this morning on Newsmax. Take a look.
The case dismissed after prosecutors said the full grand jury never saw the final indictment Halligan signed. And as we mentioned, this was her first time in a grand jury room. No prosecutorial experience. Ike, really not a good look for the administration here. Not the outcome they wanted. What do you make of this?
Well, it's unfortunate it is happening on a technicality, and it is a Clinton-appointed judge. And my question is, why wasn't this dismissed months ago, maybe before the statute of limitations was run out? So certainly in the letter from the judge, the prosecutorial experience, lack thereof, was indicated again and again. But I guess right now, James Comey will have more time to listen to Taylor Swift for a little while, unless this gets brought back up. But I want to know, what's the deal with these Trump U.S. attorney picks not getting secured? The blue slip question is out there with Chuck Grassley and others. They continue to block, and they continue to sort of circumvent the law. Questions on Halligan for sure, but still, I just don't think that we should be in this situation to begin with.
Yeah, the question is,
okay, so what are we talking about? This blue slip situation. Basically,
the case dismissed after prosecutors.
They send these blue slips to, if they nominate someone for U.S. attorney in a state, the senators in that state can sort of block them with this blue slip rule, this blue slip procedure, okay? And that's what we're talking about. Senate Republicans refusing to toss out the blue slip tradition allowed the James Comey and Letitia James indictments to be thrown out by a liberal judge. Chuck Grassley, representative of Iowa, senator there, refused to get rid of the blue slip procedure. So Democrat Senators Warren and Kaine out of Virginia unilaterally blocked the confirmation of Lindsay Halligan. You're never going to get a U.S. attorney pick past them. They're not doing things in the sense of the status quo. The Democrats aren't. They're blocking everything. Everything. It's never happened before. They're blocking anybody and everybody. Okay? So the judge had the ammo to claim Halligan isn't legally in her position, threw it out. Chuck Grassley says the 100-year-old, this was back in August, the blue slip allows home state senators to have input on U.S. attorneys and district court judges. In the Biden administration, Republicans kept 30 liberals off the bench that President Trump can now fill with conservatives. No, he can't, because you guys are still adhering to the old blue slip rules. Speaking of Mike Davis, he chimed in on this. He wants the blue slips to go away. He said he helped get rid of them for circuit judges in 2017. But he says that Grassley isn't the problem. He says if Grassley holds a vote on any U.S. attorney, U.S. district judge, or U.S. Marshal nominee without blue slips, the nomination will fail in the Senate Judiciary Committee because too many Republicans would vote no. Home state senators do not want to give away their power to hand select the U.S. attorney who would prosecute them, the U.S. district judge who would oversee their trial, and the U.S. Marshal who would escort them to prison. The solution is simple, Attorney Mike Davis spells out. He says have all Senate Judiciary Republicans and at least 50 Senate Republicans sign a letter saying this: we will vote to confirm President Trump's U.S. attorney nominees who lack blue slips from home state senators. Then Grassley can move forward with a committee vote. But why would Grassley anger all his colleagues and waste limited committee resources if the nominees will fail? So basically he's proposing this idea, get all of these Republican senators on the record saying they will vote for him, and then do away with the blue slip thing and then hold them to account. So that's that. Now we have this situation with Marjorie Taylor Greene. This past weekend, she sent out this big, long statement. Did you read it all? I'm like, give me a break. I mean, I'm sure, some of what she said is true and, the system and all that stuff. But I'm sorry, ma'am. You were elected to a 2-year term and you're leaving in the middle of the term right after allegedly you have qualified for some kind of long-term pension. And you're quitting. And now there has to be a special election in Georgia. I'm fighting this horrible system. The system is so bad, but I quit. You're on your own. I mean, I'm sorry. I have no respect for that. I understand that things are getting harder for you and that you and President Trump are in this feud. But President Trump said, they asked him, do you forgive her? And he's like, forgive her for what? We have a different opinion on it. It's not like Donald Trump is freaking out about it. He uses social media to try to apply pressure and get his point of view out. But he's not holding some kind of weird personal grudge. He just didn't like the way she was doing it, and he called her out on it. Hello? But look, Marjorie Taylor Greene's in trouble. She's been, kind of out there for a while. And apparently what she was doing wasn't working. She'd been polling there in Georgia, thinking about running for Senate, the Senate seat, thinking about running for governor, but none of her numbers were anywhere near good enough. I don't know if they were running polls as of late, and that's why she sort of started shifting to the middle. Because let me tell you, she's never been someone who's been in the middle. She's been like in the far QAnon space. And so it's really odd. So it's like, was she moving to the center with these positions and then doing polling to see how well it was landing with people, to see about the possibilities of running for these other positions potentially? I don't know. She lost President Trump's endorsement. The likelihood of her winning re-election was very low. Okay, you lost, but don't quit in the middle of the fight for conservative values and the fight of our lives here. And so she responded to the Jake Sherman's tweet. A few other GOP members messaged us over the weekend saying, there's this guy with Punchbowl, I think he is, founder of Punchbowl News. And he says that he was messaged by GOP members over the weekend saying that they're also considering retiring in the middle of the term because the White House is not treating them well. The entire White House team has treated all members like garbage, all. And Mike Johnson's let it happen because he wanted it to happen. Wow. These people are not tough. They have no spine about them. Marjorie Taylor Greene responding to that post saying that's true. Fact check true. But it's worse than people inside the bubble know when you talk to real Americans outside the wicked snow globe of D.C. Myself and many of my colleagues came courageously roaring into the 2025 with legislation that matched the 2024 electoral mandate, only to be totally sidelined by Johnson under full obedience of the White House. Okay, so Marjorie Taylor Greene is, continuing to pour gasoline on this fire, acting like things are just in disarray. I look at this situation, and certainly there's not going to be any president you agree with everything they're doing. There are things that you don't like that Trump's doing that actually somebody on, in the middle or the left might like. But you know what? Of the vast majority of what President Trump's done has been part of a conservative agenda and good for our country. And when Trump does something they don't, that you don't like, that doesn't mean that, Trump, he's just not the president we thought. Well, there's going to be things you don't like. That's just a fact of life. But take holistically the job he's doing. Right? And so the Epstein files, I would say, were a mark in the negative column for how they were rolled out and how he sort of resisted them. But he came around, and now they're backfiring on Democrats. Somebody did, basically an analysis of Democrats mentioning the Epstein files, and it was nothing for years, and then it went crazy, over the last few months, and now it's nothing again because they were implicated in it. And so to me, that's, the files are going to be fully released. They've already filed, in less than 30 days, the rest of them. And so other than that, though, I mean, what do you point to and say, oh, I hate the way that President Trump handled that? Because he's done a phenomenal job. He's gotten so much stuff done far, ahead of schedule. Is he perfect? No, I don't know any perfect president. I don't know why that's the standard. I mean, that's sort of the game that Democrats play, is they act like everything they say is perfect and everything they do is perfect. And that's the standard they want to try to hold Republicans to. Well, nobody's perfect, certainly not a Democrat. And so they want to hold people to hypocritical standards that they don't even hold themselves to and try to ridicule from that angle. But I'm sorry, there's no perfect president, okay? And just accepting that. You might look at the economy and say, it's not happening fast enough. I'm impatient too, but look, all of these factors have been laid out. All of these details and policies and tax cuts and investment deals are all lined up. And you've got multiple economists predicting Q1 next year is when it all starts to really pick up speed. Okay. We get more rate cuts likely coming, and those, are just going to magnify what we have going on. But despite what Marjorie Taylor Greene says, despite maybe a psyop that's occurring, the Trump base still supports him overwhelmingly more so than Obama's base or Bush's base supported them at this point in their second term.
President losing Republicans?
No. Look, this is still Donald Trump's Republican Party, and we can see it here. It's like a rock, to quote Bob Seger. I mean, take a look here. Republicans who approve of Trump. 6 months ago, it was 87%. Now, well, hello, it's the same number. It's 87%. He has not lost any support among Republicans compared to 6 months ago. As I said at the beginning, he's like a rock. He's like a rock. The Republican base is sticking by Donald Trump at this point in time.
It really is interesting to watch his overall approval rating go down, but see this be completely constant here.
It is among independents. It is not among Republicans.
Okay, so how does this compare to past presidents in a second term?
Yeah, okay. I think this gives the game away, right? Which is Donald Trump, if you look at 21st century presidents' own party approval at this point in term two, who leads the pack? It's Donald John Trump. 87% of Republicans approve of Donald John Trump. You go back to 2013, 78% of Democrats supported Barack Obama, and it was 78% of Republicans who supported George W. Bush back in 2005 at this point. So Donald Trump has the biggest highest own party approval of any president who served their entire second term in the 21st century.
You could look at this one of two ways. You could say, obviously, he's doing way better than past presidents, or you could say there is still room to settle. If there is a reversion to the mean here, if that does fall further, that could chip into his overall approval rating. Okay, Marjorie Taylor Greene resigning from Congress in January. One of the concerns is.
So this tells you, I mean, it hasn't moved an inch from 6 months ago. So regardless of what you might be seeing in the media or hearing or whatever, the base is still with President Trump far more than Obama and Bush at this point. So take it for what it is. When you look at the numbers, there is no there about the sky falling. But let's see what they have to say about Marjorie Taylor Greene.
Is that Donald Trump backed someone in a primary against her. How has Donald Trump done in his congressional endorsements?
You know, when you go up against Donald Trump, you're going up against a buzzsaw because Donald Trump's endorsement record is, it's hard to find anyone else who beats it.
All right, I want you to take a look at these numbers, okay? You know, if you listen to the liberal media, oh, well, President Trump, you know, people he's endorsing are, they're losing. Look at his record. 96% endorsement success percentage in 2024. 95 in 2022, which you could argue like that's when, maybe he was, waning, but still 95%. That's incredibly impressive. 2020, it was at 98%. The people he endorsed won.
Times Trump endorsees won GOP primaries. In 2020, it was 98%. 2022, it was 95%. In 2024, it was 96%. And I will note the majority of times that Donald Trump backed a challenger to an incumbent like Marjorie Taylor Greene, that challenger won a majority of the time. The bottom line is this. There was a real reason why Marjorie Taylor Greene decided, you know what, it's not worth the fight, because more times than not, when you go up against Donald Trump in a Republican primary, you lose.
All right. I get that, but I still don't get what justification she has for quitting. Okay? That makes no sense to me whatsoever. It's not justified. Can't get on board with that. All right. Here's a weird, wacky rumor that's floating around. We got people online that are refuting it, but Paul Sperry, who is the one who has posted this, he's a pretty reliable journalist on a lot of his stuff. He said, developing. Senior White House aides and cabinet heads are bracing for major personnel shakeup, as insiders tell me that the president is growing increasingly unhappy with economic messaging, among other things. Shakeup could include Chief of Staff Susie Wiles in the new year. Okay? You got other people that are part of the cabinet that said this is absolutely false. Again, Paul Sperry's not somebody who just posts a bunch of crazy stuff, so take it for what it's worth. We'll keep an eye on that. But what do you think? Do you think it's time for a shakeup? Let me know in the chat. Also, give us a thumbs up and share this broadcast on whatever platform you're watching it on. And if you are watching on X, heart the post and repost. We're going to talk about the Thanksgiving story coming up. We're going to talk about Epstein and Schumer and the Muslim Brotherhood, the turkeys that were pardoned, and a whole lot more. So hang on. We are coming back after the break with Gaetano Ventrone. He is a member of the Westchester, New York Republican County Committee just outside of D.C. We're going to talk to him about New York City Mayor-elect Zohran Mamdani, who was meeting with Trump in the Oval Office days ago. It's an interesting meeting and a lot of interesting sound bites that took place at that meeting. We'll get his take on what's going on there on the ground in the New York area. So we're coming back with that and more. You're watching the Ike Wingate Show. Back after this.
Oh, hey. Didn't see you there. Well, just hanging out on the farm here. You know, one thing I was thinking about this morning is when's the next crisis going to hit? It's not really a matter of if, it's just a matter of when. And we really can't rely on the government to take care of a shortage or something like that. We just got to take care of ourselves. You remember back in COVID, you tried to go to the store and everything was gone? Well, you can't risk that kind of thing. That's why I suggest My Patriot Supply. You can go to preparewithike.com and get your 4-week emergency food kit. Save $50 when you use my URL. Again, it is preparewithike.com. It's not a matter of if, it's just a matter of when. And the question is, when it does happen, will your family eat? Make sure there's no question about it. Take action now. Save $50, 4-week emergency food kit. Preparewithike.com. 407 years ago, there used to be men in this country. Now this country is full of a bunch of weenie men. You think about all the stuff that's in the water, plastics, microplastics, there's estrogen everywhere. In fact, compared to 100 years ago, men have half the testosterone that they used to. Look, it's not like getting shot in the back of the head. All you need to do is take chalk once every day, and you can boost your testosterone for fun things that require your energy, like working out or playing sports or actually spending time with your kids. I wish I could do that, but I can't because I'm dead. But if I were alive, I would take chalk. The Patriots said chalk combine the most powerful herbal extracts, so it's all natural, giving you that lift that you need. George, come spot me.
Well, Abe, if I too were alive, I'd gladly spot you.
It's time to boost your testosterone to levels not seen since 1776 or 1860 or 1864, whatever. But it's herbal. It's natural. It's made in the USA. It's been clinically studied to boost testosterone. We're talking about chalk. Okay? Stop being all weird with this trends and everything else. We didn't have that back in my day. We had real men. It's time to get boosted back to those levels when men were men and women were women and there wasn't anything in between. Right, Mary?
Yes, Lincoln.
That's right. Get chalk. IceWingate.com. Get chalk. If you want to be like me, get chalk. Except for the dead part. Okay. IceWingate.com.
Hey there! Tired of watching your subscription costs climb higher and higher? With Q Broadcast, you get more for less. All your favorite channels and content bundled into one unbeatable package. No contracts, no hidden fees, just simple, affordable streaming. Say goodbye to overpriced services and hello to a new era of entertainment. This is streaming the way it should be. Q Broadcast, this changes everything.
You can sign up for Q Streaming today at IkeWingate.com. Just click Get Q Streaming to start streaming tons of channels, video on demand, even pay-per-view, all for the same price. It's all included. This is a Christian conservative-owned company that does not hate your values. Stop giving money to the cabal of big tech. Support companies that support your values. Right now at IkeWingate.com, just click Get Q Streaming.
Independent, true, and unafraid. Now back to the Ike Wingate Show.
All right, welcome back. We are with you here on the Ike Wingate Show, where we are shining a light into the dark corners of our government, our culture, and our media. Of course, we want to welcome in our friends watching on Right Side Broadcasting. If you are new to the show, of course, you can follow me at Ike Wingate on X to stay connected. And we are glad you are watching. Give the broadcast a thumbs up and share it with your friends right now. If you're watching on X, heart the post and repost. We would love to get your help with that. If you'd like to support our mission to bring this content to you with a $5, $10, $20 contribution, you can do so using Cash App or Venmo at IkeReport.com. And those of you watching on Rumble, you can also give right there in the chat. So we want to see your comments coming through in the chat throughout the show. What's up, Jacob, who is watching on YouTube? What's up, buddy? Good to see you. Or I should say Nate, a.k.a. Nate. Lots of you chiming in there in the chat. Plenty of odd trolling going on as well. It's a time of Thanksgiving. Relax a little bit. All right, we're going to be talking about the meeting between Mamdani, the mayor-elect of New York City, and President Trump that occurred days ago in the White House. You might recall, though, when Mamdani was elected, here's what he had to say to Trump.
So, Donald Trump, since I know you're watching, I have 4 words for you. turn the volume up.
Okay, everybody cheered. He looked all big and bad at that point, right? Yeah, I mean, what a big talker. Well, kind of a different demeanor there in the White House a few days ago, where Mamdani was asked about the fact that he's been calling President Trump a fascist.
Are you affirming that you think President Trump is a fascist?
I've spoken about.
That's okay. You can just say yes.
Okay.
It's easier. It's easier than explaining it. I don't mind.
So President Trump kind of bailed him out of that comment. So what do you think about that? That was kind of interesting. Got some theories on that. I tell you what, why don't we bring someone in who is there just outside of New York City? Gaetano Ventrone, who has been a loyal viewer of the show as well. He is with the Westchester, New York Republican County Committee there just outside D.C. to give us a little bit of an insight on what is happening there on the ground. Gaetano, welcome to the show today. Tell me, what are you thinking when you see that meeting inside the Oval Office there as a New Yorker? What first hits you as a guy who's not necessarily, I'm guessing, a Mamdani supporter?
Well, hello, Ike. Thank you for having me. It seems that Mamdani turned the volume off. If you ask me, Trump was in command of that entire meeting. And for Trump to heap that much praise on him, he must have laid it on pretty thick with President Trump. I believe he went there with his tail between his legs, worried that Trump could upend his mayorship before it even began.
Yeah, so they seem to get along. There was a lot of smiles. There was certainly a behind closed doors meeting. Here's how President Trump responded regarding just helping Mamdani. Take a look at this. Or don't. I don't know. Maybe it will play. Maybe it won't. But they were very friendly. Here we go.
Well, thank you very much. We've just had a great meeting, a really good, very productive meeting. We have one thing in common. We want this city of ours that we love to do very well. And I wanted to congratulate the mayor. He really ran an incredible race against, a lot of smart people, starting with the early primaries against some very tough people, very smart people. And he beat them easily. And I congratulated him. And we talked about some things in very strong common, like housing and getting housing built, and food and prices, and the price of oil is coming way down.
All right, so they seem to have common ground regarding affordability. But what do you think President Trump's strategy here is by being so nice to Mamdani?
Well, the White House had actually said beforehand that they were planning on being very cordial, and that's how they wanted it to come off as well. They spoke about pocketbook issues, and right now, number one issue top of mind for voters is affordability. And so I think it was strategic for Trump. I think that by being cordial and by extending, the olive branch, if you will, that he's setting Mamdani up to fail on his own. Nobody can blame Trump, right? Nobody can say, well, he took federal funding, or he did this, he did that. They love to blame him for everything. So by being cordial, and it also sets the tone for the White House going into 2026 to set affordability at the top of its agenda and messaging.
Yeah. So if President Trump was, super confrontational and not smiling and was, a little more rough with Mamdani, that would have played right into the liberal media's hands, don't you think?
Exactly. And Trump only gets snarky when the other party gets snarky first, right? Trump, we know that he's willing to meet with anybody. He's willing to talk with anyone. And we've seen that, and he's proven that. And the only times there's ever been any contention is when the other party is either disrespectful or says something out of line or what have you. And so I don't know why people expected any fireworks, to be honest with you, at that meeting. It makes perfect sense that they would be cordial and nice to each other. But I think for Trump, really just by siding with Mamdani publicly, by Mamdani siding with Trump publicly, right? He's now being sent home to be accountable to his own radical base.
Right. Yeah. And that was kind of some of the genius, I think, in the way that he handled it is it's going to look bad for Mamdani because he's unproven in a lot of ways. And it looks to his, radical base that Mamdani is, chumming it up with Trump there in the Oval Office. But the reason why that doesn't have the same effect on Trump is, he has a track record. We know that, he's going to be nice as long as you are decent and respectful. Mamdani needs to be nice to President Trump because he can make his life a lot harder on federal funds. What's the sort of attitude there? Obviously, you are just outside of New York City, but the sort of ripple effect is so many jobs and so much of the economy and so much of what happens there in your area does have a connection in large parts of New York City. What's the feeling on the ground there? Are people freaking out? I mean, you're sort of in the middle of this Republican county committee that's, probably somewhat the exception maybe and not the norm in New York. I don't know. You tell me, but what's the feeling?
Well, we're in a very blue area. Our list of candidates we just had a local election also this past November the 5th. And I think, Democrats ran away with like 60% of the vote. Our candidates got about 35% of the vote. It's a very blue area, but I'm worried because Republicans need to look under the hood. All I heard was after November 5th was, oh, that's just blue candidates winning in blue states. Well, if you look under the hood, that's not what happened at all. Here in New York, upstate North Country, as they call it, Onondaga County flipped blue for the first time in half a century. 50 years. It flipped blue this past election. Ithaca, New York, they elected a 20-year-old communist to the city council. So it's a big ripple effect, and people are worried about this socialism nonsense, right? And I think it's not so much that it's not President Trump's policies they hate. I think it's more the optics, right? The whole country just voted for mass deportation and for all of the things he's doing. Yet all of a sudden now there's all this outrage. I just find it a little funny because, you can't try to convince me that all these voters flipped on him in 6 months, right? There's no way. So I think a lot of it is just optics. But yeah, people are worried about the socialism nonsense, and it doesn't matter that Congress condemned it. They passed that resolution. That's neither here or there. Those 86 Democrats that voted in favor of that are the last bastion of what you would call a Democrat. Okay. 2/3 of the Democratic Party now have a favorable view of socialism. That's the majority. And we're going to have to live with that reality now.
Yeah. Well, inside the White House, Jack Posobiec actually asked Zohran Mamdani about socialism, about taxing white neighborhoods more. He wanted to get him on the record there, and this is how it went.
I wanted to know one of the policies as well that Mayor-elect Mamdani talked a number of times about on the campaign was shifting the tax burden for property taxes from what he called minority communities to white-based communities and putting more taxes on white people. I also noticed that in your acceptance speech, you didn't mention anything about America or Christians or white people in general. And so I didn't know if that was one of the policies that you guys had spoken about.
We focused on affordability. We focused on the cost of living crisis. What I will say is that I am very much interested in property tax reform because what we see right now in New York City is a system that is so inequitable that it can't even stand up in court. And the president and I spoke about the importance of not only building more housing, but also making sure that regulation of housing is something that is manageable to actually get through and not the cause of yet another weight that we see in our city.
To be clear, you're continuing this idea of race-based property taxes.
No, to be very clear,
That's what you said.
no, the use of the term was a description of neighborhoods, not a description of intent.
So you intend to tax the whiter neighborhoods more?
No, we intend to create a fair property tax system because we want a New York City that is not only fair and equitable, but also one that every New Yorker can afford.
Policy proposal that says your plan, and I'm going to quote it for folks, is to shift the tax burden from overtaxed homeowners in the outer boroughs to more expensive homes in richer and whiter neighborhoods. Explain why you are bringing race into your tax proposal.
That is just a description of what we see right now. It's not driven by race. It's more of an assessment of what neighborhoods are being undertaxed versus overtaxed.
So no plans to change that language on your website.
The focus here is to actually ensure a fair property tax system, and that the use of that language is just an assessment of the neighborhood.
Okay, so it seems he certainly contradicted himself. Gaetano, what's your reaction to his response to that question?
Well, it wouldn't be the first time he contradicted himself. He's walking back a lot of the things that he said, and to be honest, he's a snake oil salesman. And you know, the voters don't even care. They know that by now, they know that he cannot enact some of the things he promised, or not without help at least. And they hear him now time after time walking back these policies, and they don't care. They still love him. And that's how rabid that base is. James Tallarico, a Democrat, a devout Christian, just got caught up in a scandal following OnlyFans and prostitutes on social media. And you know, any pushback from the constituency? No. You go in the comments and they're like, well, he praises Jesus, he's a good man, or I really like him, he's a great guy. And you know, like, I don't care what the New York Post says. And that's wild. That is wild. They have lost all morality and accountability. They just don't care.
The moral compass is not there. I mean, we saw that with the Jay Jones Attorney General race there in Virginia.
Good example.
A guy who made death threats to another lawmaker and his children, and yet he still wins. And so for a party that claims the moral high ground and helping the oppressed and worried about the least of these, they could care less about any morality whatsoever. It's almost as if you know, it doesn't matter how depraved or what kind of despotism someone's engaged in. As long as there's a D next to their name, they're going to get the vote.
That's right.
Yeah,
That's right. And it's sad, but you know, that's what these quote unquote safe districts, you know, as long as you're a Democrat, or and that goes for the same, you know, there's Republican safe districts, you know, where generally the Democrat or whatever will win every time. You know, it doesn't matter who the candidate is, as you say, as long as they have a D next to the name. And you're absolutely right. The amount of sheer, it's just, I can't wrap my head around it. I can't even wrap my head around it. There's no words. There's no words for these people.
So quickly, before we let you go, you're with the Republican County Committee there, Westchester. Do you guys have plans, strategy? You know, don't want you to reveal any secrets, but is there some sort of concerted effort to try to flip some of these other races or push back against this? I mean, with the social.
Well, yeah, we try every year. We try every year. Excuse me. The midterms, I believe, are going to be really hard. I think they're going to be really hard on Republicans. As Trump expressed his, he didn't like the economic message that's coming out of the White House, and I agree with that. I think there's a lot of messaging issues that can be fixed. But I also think that they need to go with some younger candidates, like JD Vance, okay, Marco Rubio, okay, not older than that. They should get some young blood in there as well, because where are the Republicans AOCs? Where are our Mamdanis? They don't exist, right? We need to match that energy, because if we don't, they're going to walk all over us. And all they have to do is use the Trump fear mongering that they've been using for the past decade, and it seems to work just fine on their base even today. So
yeah,
I'm a little worried about the midterms.
Yeah, keep fighting the good fight. I'll say this from a standpoint of optimism is I'm actually glad that there was a bit of a referendum there in those few races a couple weeks ago, because if there was some sort of unprecedented situation where Republicans won in Virginia or New Jersey, I think there would be a tendency for complacency on the Republican side. And the fact is, there was a little bit of a postmortem on why it went the way it went. And, President Trump keyed in very quickly on the fact that there's a messaging issue. Obviously, there's, a literal issue on the affordability of some items, just getting things back to a stable place because of what the Biden administration policies did. But also the messaging. We really need to tout the wins. And a big part of economic confidence is just positive press. And so I think if you could take something positive from the way those races went, it is going to get Republicans working again and not to rest on their laurels. And that's really what they got to do. They got to work like the underdogs, not like the majority. So, all right, Gaetano Ventrone, thank you for joining us. Westchester, New York, Republican County Committee there. I hope you have a fantastic Thanksgiving, sir. Thank you.
You too. Happy Thanksgiving, everybody.
Thank you. All right, so now we're going to look at the FBI, who has concluded that the Trump assassin Thomas Crooks acted alone. Report from Fox News came out days after Tucker Carlson's bombshell report on Crooks' online activity, saying that the would-be assassin acted alone after a massive team doggedly pursued interviews with thousands of foreign and domestic individuals as part of an unprecedented global investigation. We reviewed this case over and over, looked into every nugget. We've spoken to the families, the president. There's no cover-up here. That's what Dan Bongino told Fox News Digital. Now, Kash Patel just did an interview with Catherine Herridge that was released, recently on X. You could go check that out. It's about 30 minutes. I watched it. And I think it, colors in some more of the questions that we had. I watched it and I thought, okay, that to me tells me there are some other things going on. Now, the criticism of the interviews, there weren't many follow-ups. Maybe that was a rule. Maybe they were crunched for time. It is a little suspicious looking, or at least it's not the best look, that it took Tucker Carlson's piece on Thomas Crooks and all his online aliases and all of these years and years of comments for the FBI to finally come out and sort of talk about some of this stuff. And so that is creating a little bit of doubt. But I will say, for the most part, it looks like Kash Patel is getting a handle on things and providing some additional details that make some of the moves that they've been making make a little bit more sense. But here he is talking specifically on that interview with Catherine Herridge about Thomas Crooks acting alone.
Just to be clear, did Thomas Crooks act alone?
Yes, based on the evidence that we have, that is the conclusive finding of the matter.
Is there evidence of foreign involvement?
There, as we indicated in our public disclosures, Thomas Crooks had some online platforms where he engaged through email with a couple of individuals overseas, and we chased those down literally to the end. And basically it was just that, online email accounts overseas without any substantive communication.
What was Thomas Crooks' motive?
He, as has been publicized, had a basically hateful relationship with the United States government, talked disparagingly about both political parties, to include President Trump, and talked about the need to take matters into his own hands. And unfortunately, that's what he did.
Okay. So not a ton of details there, but you remember the FBI we heard that there was maybe some involvement, some connection via his phones or something like that to foreign entities. We haven't heard anything else about that until right then. But we also were told by the Biden FBI that this guy had no online footprint. That was a total flat out lie. And it took Tucker Carlson's report for us to find that out. About 23 different aliases. The guy was, according to Miranda Devine, she did a further investigation. Thomas Crooks was using they, them pronouns as well. And Thomas Crooks was a diehard Trump supporter and spewing hateful rhetoric against, Democrats or anti-Trump people for a couple years. And then COVID happened, and the guy did a complete 180 and threatened Trump online, threatened Republicans online, threatened, the barrel of a gun as the best, option or whatever it was. And it's as if some kind of mind virus infected him years ago, but that mind virus was able to be switched and manipulated against Trump during COVID. I don't know if it's all organic. I don't know if there's some kind of, psyop or some kind of MK Ultra style deal going on with him, because it's so weird. It's almost like it has to be something crazy like that. Which MK Ultra is not crazy. It happened. It's documented. There's no question about that. As far as manipulating people and drugs and, different things that make people do things. But to be able to switch during COVID, let's just say there isn't some other operation going on. It shows you that the sort of psyop that the media was engaged in regarding COVID and scaring people to death and sort of presenting President Trump as some kind of unhinged lunatic who didn't care about people's safety had real psychological effects on people that were already unstable. I think we've all seen that. We've all seen the person driving down the road by themselves in their car with a mask on, right? Or the person that, runs after you if you're not wearing a mask, or, you're not vaccinated or something like that. I mean, we've seen that kind of thing happen again and again, and it certainly seems to be the result of this psychological conditioning that occurred during COVID. Is that what happened to Thomas Crooks? I don't know, but you can clearly see the pattern change through Tucker Carlson's reporting, not through transparency. I don't know if that, you can't really blame Kash Patel because he wasn't in charge when that happened. Were there things that were covered up or buried? I don't know. We do know there were a ton of burn bags with information that's now implicating Comey and others that were set to be destroyed that hardly anyone knew about. You think they didn't hide things about this particular instance? I mean, come on. If they would hide it about that, they would hide it about this, right? All right. So that being said, a couple other things you need to know. You've been hearing from Reuters and others that DOGE is done. DOGE is done. That's what Reuters was pushing. Okay, let's see if we can find that actual status. Okay, I don't know if we can. But basically they said, with 9 months left or whatever, DOGE is done. Well, DOGE is not done. Okay? They are alive and well.
OPM Director Scott Cooper, clarifying its functions will be absorbed by the Office of Personnel Management, saying, quote, the truth is DOGE may not have centralized leadership, but the principles of DOGE remain alive and well. Back in October, DOGE estimated it saved a total of $214 billion since the start of its push to eliminate government fraud, waste, and abuse. Also known as DOGE.
Okay. So DOGE continues, although Reuters says DOGE doesn't exist with 8 months left to go. Okay. So as you're having your Thanksgiving turkey and people say, yeah, DOGE really didn't do much. What happened to that? I heard it's gone. And you say, no, Uncle Cecil, DOGE is alive and well. Reuters is a lying fake news. They're totally fake. Uncle Cecil, you need to put down the cranberry sauce and totally start watching the Ike Wingate show. It's better than you can imagine. Believe me. As usual, DOGE tweets out, this is fake news from Reuters. President Trump was given a mandate by the American people to modernize the federal government and reduce waste, fraud, and abuse. Just last week, DOGE terminated 78 wasteful contracts and saved taxpayers $335 million. We'll be back in a few days with our regularly scheduled Friday update. So DOGE continues. Sorry, Uncle Cecil, it still exists. Okay. But you wouldn't know that if you get your news in the wrong places because they lie. They lie like dogs. Like dogs, they lie and they lie again, okay? All right, let's take a break. Final break. We're going to be coming back with Epstein and Schumer's ties. Benjamin Netanyahu tweeting out about Epstein being involved in Israeli elections, plus the Muslim Brotherhood had a bad day. Open carry, could be going to the Supreme Court, and some turkeys were pardoned. All that and more, plus the first Thanksgiving story after the break.
Oh, hey. Didn't see you there. Well, just hanging out on the farm here. You know, one thing I was thinking about this morning is when's the next crisis going to hit? It's not really a matter of if, it's just a matter of when. And we really can't rely on the government to take care of a shortage or something like that. We just got to take care of ourselves. You remember back in COVID, you tried to go to the store and everything was gone? Well, you can't risk that kind of thing. That's why I suggest My Patriot Supply. You can go to preparewithike.com and get your 4-week emergency food kit. Save $50 when you use my URL. Again, it is preparewithike.com. It's not a matter of if, it's just a matter of when. And the question is, when it does happen, will your family eat? Make sure there's no question about it. Take action now. Save $50. 4-week emergency food kit. Preparewithike.com. Fourscore and 7 years ago, there used to be men in this country. Now this country's full of a bunch of weenie men. You think about all the stuff that's in the water, plastics, microplastics, there's estrogen everywhere. In fact, compared to 100 years ago, men have half the testosterone that they used to. Look, it's not like getting shot in the back of the head. All you need to do is take chalk once every day, and you can boost your testosterone for fun things that require your energy, like working out or playing sports or actually spending time with your kids. I wish I could do that, but I can't because I'm dead. But if I were alive, I would take chalk. The Patriots at Chalk combine the most powerful herbal extracts, so it's all natural, giving you that lift that you need. George, come spot me.
Well, Abe, if I too were alive, I'd gladly spot you.
It's time to boost your testosterone to levels not seen since 1776 or 1860 or 1864, whatever. But it's herbal. It's natural. It's made in the USA. It's been clinically studied to boost testosterone. We're talking about chalk. Okay? Stop being all weird with this trends and everything else. We didn't have that back in my day. We had real men. It's time to get boosted back
to those levels when men were men and women were women and there wasn't anything in between. Right, Mary?
Yes, Lincoln.
That's right. Get chalk. IceWingate.com. Get chalk. If you want to be like me, get chalk. Except for the dead part. Okay. IceWingate.com.
Hey there! Tired of watching your subscription costs climb higher and higher? With Q Broadcast, you get more for less. All your favorite channels and content bundled into one unbeatable package. No contracts, no hidden fees, just simple, affordable streaming. Say goodbye to overpriced services and hello to a new era of entertainment. This is streaming the way it should be. Q Broadcast, this changes everything.
You can sign up for Q Streaming today at IkeWingate.com. Just click Get Q Streaming to start streaming tons of channels, video on demand, even pay-per-view, all for the same price. It's all included. This is a Christian conservative-owned company that does not hate your values. Stop giving money to the cabal of big tech. Support companies that support your values. Right now at IkeWingate.com, just click Get Q Streaming.
He's the Rush Limbaugh for the next generation. Now back to the Ike Wingate Show.
All right, welcome back, and happy Thanksgiving to you and yours. For those of you just finding the show, watching on Right Side Broadcasting, my name is Ike Wingate. Our mission here is to shine a light into the dark corners of our government, culture, and media. We bring the truth out there and try to entertain you a little bit in the process. You can follow me on X at Ike Wingate, Wingate. It is there on your screen on the bottom left if you would like to follow me there. And of course, whatever platform you happen to be watching on, please help us in the algorithm by giving us a thumbs up and sharing this live. Give us a thumbs up and repost or share, or if you're watching on X, heart the post and repost. A couple comments here. Somebody named Artura, I can't read that, says, "You're full of it. He is a bad man," talking about Trump. Well, you obviously are very well educated. You're full. It should be your, Y-O-U apostrophe R-E, as in you are, not your. There's no ownership here. And instead of F-U-L-L, it's spelled F-O-O-L. You're full of it. He is a bad man. Okay, well, I'll take your word for it. Okay. Let's see. What other comments do we have here? Patty says, "Doge was great. Glad to hear they still exist. And your Trump impression was great." Well, thank you, Patty. It is an honor. Okay. All right. Thank you for watching, and appreciate your comments there in the chat. There are plenty more comments, but some of them are not safe for work because of what some nasty people are saying, but that's okay. Thank you for being here. Maybe you'll get a little bit of exposure to truth, and that is what we hope to do. Now, look at this FEC record showing through J. Epstein and Co. Child sex trafficker Jeffrey Epstein gave $22,000 to Senate Minority Leader Chuck Schumer, who's said Trump should answer for his friendship with Epstein, including $7,000 direct to Schumer campaigns and $15,000 to Schumer-tied PACs. Again, what you don't hear anymore are Democrats talking about the Epstein files. It's as if it never happened. So, little Chucky Schumer, it's time for you to tell us what happened. All right. Interesting post from Benjamin Netanyahu, Prime Minister of Israel. It seems Israel is in the news all the time. People want to blame Israel for everything, no matter whether they had anything to do with it or not. I never said Israel was perfect. I certainly never said Benjamin Netanyahu is perfect. I do think it has reached a point where people just blame Israel and Jews for everything. And so I'm fatigued with it. Even if you had some kind of legit argument, it's just like, people have gotten so greedy with this whole argument that now it's like it's diminished attention spans for it. I'm not going to go into all that. I think I have a very balanced approach to this situation, but if you're on either polar end of this issue, then you're not going to agree with me. But nonetheless, Megyn Kelly saying, I guess it's not anti-Semitic to ask if Epstein as an asset for Israeli intel, if he was, and if we shouldn't just take Ehud Barak's word for it that he wasn't. Got it. Netanyahu posting an article that argues new emails between this Ehud Barak, I'm not saying it right, and Epstein should mean at minimum an end to the widespread taboo of even asking questions about the billionaire sex offender's links to the Israeli state. Epstein brokered security deals for Israel, had a close friendship with one of its former prime ministers and military officials, and apparently even secretly involved himself in the country's elections. And that is what Benjamin Netanyahu tweeted, was a link to this story. Jeffrey Epstein claimed to have meddled in Israel's elections. Newly released files show Jeffrey Epstein claiming to have been involved in Ehud Barak's 2019 election challenge to Benjamin Netanyahu. It's well past time to ask questions about the billionaire pedophile's links to Israel. This is in the Jacobin.com. Now you can understand why Trump wakes up in the middle of the night sweating when he hears "you and I are friends." That's one of the sensational, damning Jeffrey Epstein messages that has been roundly quoted since being extracted from the more than 20,000 documents released by the House Oversight Committee last week, a reference seeming to Epstein via the damaging information he had amassed on the rich and influential. Yet what's been left out is Epstein appeared to be taking credit for former Israeli Prime Minister Ehud Barak's re-entry into Israeli politics in 2019. So basically, in the emails, he's taking credit for toppling current Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu with some kind of involvement in the election. Again, this is Benjamin Netanyahu who tweeted out this article. Okay. And so my observation here is that Epstein was involved in a lot of different countries, doing a lot of different things. I don't know who he worked for or didn't work for, because, I mean, you could make a case he works for this person, that person, this person, who knows? Because he's involved in so many different things. So that is an interesting tidbit there out of the Jeffrey Epstein files. Now, speaking of, Candace Owens says that there is an assassination plot that's been planned against her by France. She says she's going to be off the air this week. She says an update, the White House and counterterrorism agencies have confirmed receipt of what I reported publicly, that Emmanuel Macron attempted to organize my assassination, per a source close to the first couple. She goes on to say, I will again state that the French legionnaires who were involved in Charlie Kirk's assassination, but they did not act alone. For all of you who doubted my claims, you can now look to the President of the United States and our intelligence communities to issue a statement to confirm whether I am telling the truth. So she says France was involved in Charlie Kirk's assassination, that I believe there was $1.5 million bounty put on her head by Emmanuel Macron, and she has reported that based on some source she has. I'm not sure any of this is actually based in reality. There have been people that have literally tricked Candace Owens, convinced her that they are a source, and she shared some address the other day saying that the assassin for Charlie Kirk, the Charlie Kirk assassin, Tyler Robinson, and other people were linked to this one address. Well, it turns out it was the address of her very own attorney that someone lifted off of one of these lawsuits against her, and she didn't pick up on that. So I don't put her filter as very effective, But nonetheless, if this was true, it would be absolutely bonkers. I just highly doubt it, but you never know, right? Speaking of bonkers, let's play this clip from Eric Swalwell, a guy, remember Fang Fang? Yeah, right? Him and Fang Fang. And, he is now running for governor, California. And he says people should be able to vote by phone.
By phone. I think every Californian
Vote by phone.
Vote by phone. Yeah, if we can do our taxes, do our make our healthcare appointments, make essentially do your banking on.
He doesn't even actually have a list of things that people do via phone. Like it's like he just thought of this, 8 seconds ago.
Fine, you should be able to vote by phone. Make it safe, make it secure, but it's actually already happening.
If you can make an appointment with your doctor, you can elect the next president. I mean, if you can call a bank, you should be able to vote.
All over the United States. I want us to be a blue state that doesn't do just a little bit better than like Georgia or Alabama when it comes to like voting access. I want us to max out democracy. Also, as it relates to democracy, if you wait in line for 30 minutes or more, if you do want to vote in person, I think you should fine every county for every minute that a person has to wait longer. We have to be better, not just a little bit better than the other states. The DMV. I don't think Californians should have to go in person to the DMV anymore. I think we can do that virtually. I think you can have the DMV employees do it virtually, but that's a lot of real estate.
Is that the most popular position?
Digitize the DMV. Digitize the DMV.
Today? Yeah.
We can modernize the state, and I look forward to bringing these ideas to Californians.
Okay, vote by phone. I mean, what could go wrong, right? He's talking about, we need to be better. Well, you are right about one thing. California definitely needs to be better. But the answer is not voting by phone, you buffoon. Just do what the state of Florida does. We have their results right away on election night. And this guy is just, I think he's just trying to get clicks. But the fact that he threw out this preposterous idea and then, which is totally set up for mass fraud, but he throws out this boneheaded idea and then he can't even make the case for why it would make sense. We make healthcare appointments on the phone. We talk to banks. How does that equate to we should vote by phone? I mean, give me a break. Anyway, let's see what else is going on here. Okay, a couple other bits of info for you. By the way, like the broadcast, repost us, share us, help us out. President Donald J. Trump just signed an executive order directing Secretary Rubio and Scott Bessent, Treasury Secretary, to begin the process of designating certain chapters of the Muslim Brotherhood as foreign terrorist organizations and specially designated global terrorists. So a lot of people are happy that the certain chapters of the Muslim Brotherhood have been designated as foreign terrorist organizations. Others say it doesn't go far enough. I would say this is a great first step to call it out because we absolutely know they have been part of these terrorist networks with connections to Lebanon, Jordan, Egypt, and other places that are outside of and in contrast, in conflict with United States interests. Okay, so that is one of the developments there. All right. And also, the Trump DOJ has filed with the Supreme Court to strike down state laws banning the public carrying of firearms. California, New York, Hawaii, Maryland, New Jersey, and other states have laws which would be impacted by this. A win in this case will restore Second Amendment rights for millions of Americans, Attorney General Pam Bondi said. Now, there's been some questions on Pam Bondi's attitude toward the Second Amendment. And this, to me, is a huge step in the right direction, basically saying there shouldn't be any laws about carrying firearms. I mean, there should be some laws, right? So, for obtaining them, maybe. But as far as the carrying of firearms, you have to get these concealed carry permits. I have one. But, so, I know many gun advocate groups that say we don't even need that. There shouldn't have to be a concealed carry law. Someone should be able to carry if they are a law-abiding citizen, they should be able to carry that thing anywhere and everywhere. Of course, they make these gun-free zones and that kind of stuff, which just sets up all kinds of victim potential, as we've seen many times over in these school shootings. But we'll keep an eye on that as it relates to the Second Amendment. Now, again and again and again on the leftist lamestream media, you see these stories. Oh, this guy, especially about these deportations, this guy was just minding his own business, working in the kitchen, and the ICE just came in and just tackled him. And well, that's wrong again. Yet again, people. I mean, how many times do you have to be wrong to where you say, you know what, maybe I should check the facts of this story before I start publishing it? This guy was not a restaurant worker. He was evading ICE. He ran into a restaurant kitchen, and that's where he was caught. It looks as though he had a knife on him as well. But, this idiot named Doug Henwood tweeted out, ICE in Charlotte, this guy in a headlock is a restaurant worker. Barbarians. Really? He's wearing a hoodie. Doesn't look like he has an apron on or is, cooking or serving. No, as Tricia McLaughlin, deputy DHS secretary, says that this is wrong. Illegal alien from Peru. He evaded arrest, ran from the scene, fled into a nearby restaurant. As law enforcement attempted to rearrest this individual, he became physical with law enforcement. They used their training and appropriate force. Another example of this manufacturing of oppressed status for these illegal immigrants was saying that a preschool worker was detained and brought to the ground in front of her students. That was a lie. This was a couple that fled out of their car and ran into a preschool, and that's where they were caught. So, there's no mention of the fact that these people are evading. They're criminals and they're evading capture, and they're running into public spaces, putting other people at risk. But yet, no, it's ICE's problem, right? Again, they lie and they lie and lie. Real quick, Strongman Games World Championship says they were unaware that Jamie Booker was a male pretending to be a woman when he competed in the women's category. They've now disqualified him. He won the strongman competition as a woman. That's not him. That's him right there. It's a dude. He is the strongest woman, and now he's not. Okay? Again and again and again, these dudes pretending to be ladies go in and infiltrate competitions for women because they can't beat a dude. It's totally unfair to women. And let's look at what's happened today recently at the White House regarding these turkeys.
The White House, we're getting our first look, Sandra, at Waddle and Gobble. So this is in the White House briefing room. They are awaiting their pardon, and they've been spending the last 2 days at the Willard Hotel across the street. And look, it's Thanksgiving in America, and this is part of American tradition.
All right. Gobble and waddle, right? And so President Trump talking about the pardons, but first he has to talk about last year's pardons.
Into a terrible situation caused by a man named Sleepy Joe Biden. He used an auto pen last year for the turkey's pardon. So I have the official duty to determine, and I have determined that last year's turkey pardons are totally invalid, as are the pardons of about every other person that was pardoned other than, where's Hunter? No, Hunter's was good. That was the one pardon, Pam, that was good, right? The rest of them are all invalid. I don't know what the hell you're going to do about that, but now we're going to take a little of the joking. That is a mess. But they're hereby null and void. The turkeys known as Peach and Blossom last year have been located, and they were on their way to be processed. In other words, to be killed. But I have stopped that journey, and I am officially pardoning them. And they will not be served for Thanksgiving dinner. We saved them in the nick of time. This one has plenty of time, but they were saved in the nick of time.
Okay. Trump also saying Gobble and Waddle are handsome birds, but plenty of comedy there as he pardoned Gobble and Waddle. And since the pardons that Joe Biden gave out via auto pen to the turkeys last year were null and void, he went ahead and pardoned them too. And of course, also during this ceremony, getting a shot in at J.B. Pritzker, the governor of Illinois.
Cases, granting mercy, discovering that the terrible trauma that everyone's going through. And I had a little bit of a Pritzker joke. I was going to talk about Pritzker and size, but when I talk about Pritzker, I get angry because he's not letting us do the job. So I'm not going to tell my Pritzker joke. They have a very cute little joke, you know. Some speechwriter wrote some joke about his weight, but I would never want to talk about his weight. I don't talk about people being fat. I refuse to talk about the fact that he's a fat slob. I don't mention it. On a more serious note, as we gather around the dinner table, I'd like to lose a few pounds too, by the way.
Okay. So he's like, I'm not going to make the fat joke about the fact that he's a fat slob. But yeah, he did say he wanted to lose a few pounds. So you can't be, Donald Trump, a comedian. And this is what's, so many emotional Democrats don't understand that Donald Trump is a super funny guy. He says a lot of things just to get a reaction, just to entertain, but they can't stand it. They can't stand it that the guy's funny. And I think it's great. I think it's great. All right. So Thanksgiving is upon us, my friends. And 5 years ago, this was the reality if you were living in California and wanted to have Thanksgiving.
California strongly discouraging trick-or-treating on Halloween, which is tomorrow, by the way. And look at these guidelines for Thanksgiving. Parties should not have people from more than 3 households. Parties can't be longer than 2 hours. And no singing, shouting, or chanting. Hey, Steve Hilton hosted.
Okay. So it wasn't that long ago, friends. Under Gavin Newsom's California in 2020, no more than 3 households present. Parties no longer than 2 hours for Thanksgiving. Guests had to stay outside. And no singing, chanting, and shouting. So stay quiet, stay compliant, be good little servants. I mean, utterly ridiculous. But this is what these people do when they get unchecked power in the name of a pandemic. We all should be scared. So you got to listen to the experts, a guy who is out without a mask on and was eating dinner. So a complete hypocrite. We cannot let these things be forgotten because they will try something again. And we must have good memories and say, no, we will not comply. All right. Of course, we are headed into Thanksgiving. Thanksgiving, is actually a very American, very patriotic holiday. And in fact, it is a Christian holiday, believe it or not. The first Thanksgiving in 1621, after the Puritans, the separatists came from England. They wanted to separate from King James I, who is, essentially going to be the head of the Church of England. Basically, you had to worship the king. They wanted to worship as they chose. They went to Holland for 11 years and picked up some more people, and they sailed to Plymouth Rock. They were actually intending to go onto the Hudson River, go to New York. They ended up at Plymouth Rock. Unfortunately, about half the people on board of the Mayflower died from scurvy that first winter. And on the way there, they formed the Mayflower Compact, a set of laws that was dictated by the Bible: respect, freedom, not worshiping some leader. And so they made the journey out of the need and desire and the calling for religious freedom. Okay, but it was a very, very rough winter. The Puritans, the Pilgrims, they instituted kind of a socialism type government there in the beginning, where, nothing, nobody owned anything, but they were not happy. And it didn't really matter how much you worked or not. You were all just going to get the same amount of stuff. And it did terribly. They were starving. They didn't have what they need. And William Bradford, who kept meticulous notes in a diary among several other people that were there that corroborated, and they changed into a capitalist system where everyone was given a piece of land and they were responsible for cultivating, clearing, and growing crops off of that land. That first winter was horrible. They nearly all died out, but things took a turn. They also got connected with the Wampanoag Indians, and Squanto. Okay, now, liberals will say, they came in and killed all the Indians. No, that's not true. Now, certainly things devolved in certain places with certain tribes, but the Wampanoag Indians got along well with the Puritans. Squanto spoke English as well as the native tongue there, and he taught the Pilgrims how to grow corn and other things. And so after that horrible winter, they had an incredible harvest that fall. Big harvest in the summer. They had a 3-day feast along with the Native Americans there. And the whole idea was we just went through hell and now we have an abundance. Actually, so much that we wish God would take some away so we wouldn't be, so we would still rely on him. That was in some of the journal notes. And so from William Bradford's journal, the whole purpose of that first Thanksgiving in 1621 was to thank God Almighty for the incredible harvest, for the incredible bounty that he blessed them with. And that was confirmed through a proclamation later from George Washington. And that is how the first Thanksgiving happened. Okay. And it was capitalism that actually caused the Puritans to succeed, along with help from the Native Americans on how to cultivate the different soil there versus back in England. So the whole purpose that I'm bringing this up, obviously it's Thanksgiving season, but also it was to thank God. Thanksgiving is a religious American holiday. Make no mistake about it. They want to try to adjust history regarding Thanksgiving in these liberal institutions, and they want to also, say how horrible the white man was and all these different things. Whatever happened along the way, there were plenty of dark chapters in every civilization, right? And there were miscommunications and there were other very hostile tribes and things like that. Nothing changes the first Thanksgiving, why it was done, religious, patriotic holiday. And you can imagine the desperation, the doubt, the fear, the hopelessness that must have occurred in the hearts of so many of these early settlers that first winter, to where they thought, what have we done? But God, being rich in mercy and grace, bestowed upon them blessings beyond their comprehension after the winter during that harvest. And thus, the holiday of Thanksgiving was born, my friend. So there are plenty of lessons out there that just because you're in a dark period right now, you never know what God is bringing you through to be able to bless you tremendously and beyond your expectation or imagination on the other side of it. But faith in that time period is what needs to occur for the betterment of your soul. But God, if you are earnestly seeking him, he is not far away. He has not abandoned you or forsaken you. And so that is something we can remember, as well as gratitude toward those early settlers and the blessing of God and the help from the Wampanoag Indians to be able to settle this land, to create a constitution based on rights, inalienable rights endowed by our Creator. No other civilization had done it. And we took it directly from the Bible, the liberty that we are given, the respect that each person is given, and created a flourishing society. And so that is a blessing and a story worth remembering. Amen. So happy Thanksgiving to you and yours, my friends. Remember, we have much to be grateful for. Life is never going to go exactly how you want it to go, but that's the beauty of it, because there is learning, there is faith, there is dependence, and there is growth along the way. Don't lose heart, my friends. There is always much to be thankful for. God bless you. Have a wonderful Thanksgiving, and God bless these United States of America. We'll see you on Tuesday, back live after Thanksgiving. So follow me on X at Ike Wingate to stay in the know on those things. And again, have a fantastic Thanksgiving.
Rate, subscribe, and leave a review. It's how we get the word out amidst the chaos. Thanks for listening to The Ike Wingate Show.